You're listening to the Night Demon Network. Go to nightdemon.net/subscriber to unlock more exclusive content.
Hello, and welcome to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. I'm your host, Nesbit. Today, we jump back in with Night Demon's first major North American tour in support of metal legends Raven. They're rolling through America with journalist Andrew Bonzal in tow. This is the 2014 Extermination Tour.
So as the tour rolls on, we have had a lot of fun so far. Headed all the way to the East Coast to start the tour, then back west, then 10 days in California, and a lot of time at home in between shows, which was nice. We're out of California now, and we head to Sparks, Nevada. So Sparks, Nevada is basically the city that's adjacent to Reno, Nevada. Reno, Nevada, the biggest little city in the world, the poor man's Vegas. We played at a place called The Alley, and when we showed up, yes, it was a bowling alley. I remember a very low turnout at this show. I do remember it was kind of a good vibe. It sucked a little bit, the coming off of the high of the California shows, but nonetheless, we needed a gig, and we got it. I can't remember who booked this one, but nothing too eventful that I remember from this show. From then, we headed to Ashland, Oregon, which is like more southern Oregon, at a place called Club 66. I remember, again, this being a very low-attended show and kind of like a roadside dive. But they had our name out there on a sandwich board outside, and it was cool to be able to play. Then from there we went up to Portland to the Tonic Lounge, which I'm not sure if this place is still around. That turnout was actually pretty good, and it was good to see a lot of friends up there. The Portland scene has always been very strong. And then to Spokane, Washington for Halloween. October 31st, 2014, a place called The Hop. I remember a bunch of random opening bands opening this show. It's kind of weird. I don't know if we were just kind of road burned, but neither us or Raven felt in the spirit to kind of celebrate Halloween. And so none of us dressed up or anything. And, you know, we were in the middle of the tour. We didn't really make a big deal about it. And then from there, November 1st, we were up into Vancouver, British Columbia. So this would technically be the very first Canadian show for Night Demon. And look, I'm going to read Andrew's blog about all these shows because let's see what he has in there, because I'm sure it's going to jar my memory a lot. But one thing that I do remember about this show specifically, there was a band called Spell that opened. Those guys are super cool. They're still around. Please check them out. They're a very cool band. I think they were kind of a newer band at the time, as were we. And I remember the guys from Gatekeeper were there, which is also another awesome Canadian band. Really cool guys. We stayed at their house that night and partied. But something really interesting happened at the show. So for people that are not familiar, the first backdrop that we had was an image from a 70s occult novel by the title of Tanith, written by a guy named Jack Shackelford. And actually, we wrote the song Save Me Now about the story of that novel, which we'll cover in an episode in the very near future, actually. But the artwork on it was amazing. And me and Brent at the time were looking for a lot of old school artists that did a lot of these illustrations or paintings on 70s occult novels. And we could never really find this person until we did, and licensed the actual artwork from him. So we did it for our very, very first T-shirt, and it's the banner, it's the backdrop that you can see in the video, in our first music video, the one that we filmed ourselves on a phone, our self-titled track, Night Demon. So basically it depicts a horned goat with wings that's flying in the air, with like a kind of Grim Reaper figure sitting on top of it, with a naked woman in front of him with her head tilted back, almost like her hair is being pulled back or something. Kind of shows like this dominance that the Reaper has over her. We just thought it was cool, and the Reaper kind of reminded us of, Rocky. So anyway, actually, we had this art before we even had Rocky, before we had the EP artwork by Kane Shimmick. So we were already kind of on that trip a little bit. Nonetheless, if you've ever heard of a new wave of British heavy metal band called Desolation Angels, then you'll know what I'm talking about. If not, please check them out too. On their iconic release from the new wave of British heavy metal heyday, they have artwork that looks pretty much, I'm not going to say identical. It looks very, very similar to this art, with the exception that they modified the artwork. And my assumption is that they did this because they probably didn't have the rights to the original art. So, and look, I mean, if anybody from Desolation Angels is ever listening to this or wants to reach out and straighten this story out, I'm more than happy to come back on the podcast or even have those guys on to tell the story, but from what we could always tell is that they basically had an artist kind of take the art from this book, Tanith, and redo it. So instead of the goat, it's like it's a horse. The wings are slightly different, but the Reaper guy is pretty much the same guy. And the woman is gone. So I don't think it's the greatest artwork, to be honest. I think it's kind of poorly done, but it kind of adds to the coolness of the era, you know, something that, you know, I'm sure bands from that era look back on it and go, man, I wish we had more money or better artists or whatever. But other people look back on it, like especially people that weren't around, and they're like, man, that's cool. That's so old school, you know. But it's a bastardization of the original artwork, and we thought it was different enough we wanted the original piece, so we got it. So anyway, that's the quick backstory. So we're in Vancouver, we're on stage, we're playing our set, and there is a guy that keeps on this, and it was a fucking packed house. This was one of the better attended shows of the tour. It was full. And there was a guy, he just kept yelling during the set, and like between songs we could hear him yelling and stuff. I don't know what the hell he was saying. So then I kind of started understanding. He kept saying, Desolation Angels, Desolation Angels, Desolation Angels.
We're playing the show. We had our original backdrop that was kind of like the band Desolation Angels kind of used the same backdrop or the same image as our backdrop. And so some kid is saying, you know, that we're a ripoff of Desolation Angels, and he's just heckling and just being a pain in the ass. And we're trying to get through the show, and we're in between songs. And he yells to Jarvis, you know, Desolation Angels, like, you guys are a rip.
So I just got tired of hearing him because it was kind of fucking up our set. So I finally just said, hey man, look, you want to say something? Like, come up on the mic and just get on stage and say it and get it over with so we can get on with our set.
Jarvis goes, you know, if there's anybody that wants to know what a guy looks like that doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, it's this motherfucker right here. And he points to the guy, and everybody starts laughing at the guy, right?
So he muscles through the crowd. You know, there's a shit ton of people rammed up front. And he gets on the stage, and he comes over to me, to my mic, and I think he's going to say something on the mic. But instead, he takes a fucking swing at me, like as hard as he can, at my head. And I was like, whoa, I did not see that coming. But, I mean, my reaction time, luckily it was quick enough. And I dodged the punch, but I'm holding a bass guitar, you know? So it's like I wasn't in a good defensive stance, or I couldn't retaliate. And thank God I fucking missed the punch. I mean, how embarrassing if I invite a guy up on stage and then he knocks me the fuck out, right?
So this guy proceeds to rush the stage, get on stage, go after Jarvis. He's basically trying to attack him, but Jarvis is kind of like keeping him at bay by extending his bass out to, like, you know, keep the guy away from him. Like, yo, get the fuck off me, dude, you know?
He throws this punch. I duck the punch, and my bass is strapped around me, and the headstock hits the ground, and I'm kind of balancing myself on my bass and like going on, like, just, you know, split second, like, what's my next move, right? Before I can even realize it, Dusty flies out from behind the drums and like form tackles this guy right off the stage into the audience.
What am I going to do? I get up from behind the kit and I bum rush the guy, and I grab him by the waist, and I tried to form tackle him off of the stage. I wanted to bury him, but I couldn't quite get the leverage, and I just kind of wrapped him around the waist and just kind of like flung him off the stage. I mean, he was much bigger than me, but I was just so full of adrenaline that I was just like that ain't happening. Like, you're not getting on stage and fucking with us. No way. So I basically threw the guy off the stage. And I was so pumped up that I just yelled to the crowd, anybody else want to come up here and fuck with us tonight? And nobody said anything. And they started calling us Fight Demon because of it.
And like, it was just one of those things. It's funny because me and Dusty have had, I don't know what it is, because I'm not really like a fighting kind of person, but he and I have had a couple physical tussles, nothing really extreme ever. I remember I chest bumped him once on stage after a show because, I don't know, I felt he wasn't giving it his all, or something happened like that. I mean, it probably wasn't that, because he always played hard. It was just something stupid. And one time I threw a sandwich at him, and there was all this cheese in his hair, and he hates cheese. But that's for another story, and that was another stupid thing that I did. Anyway, it was nice to see him come to my aid here, and it really felt like we were a gang, we were a team, you know. No, like really, he jumped in right away and saved my ass, because I probably, you know, that second punch probably would have landed. So anyway, so what happened at that point was Dusty gets back up on stage, and I was just like, what the fuck just happened? So he gets kicked out of the show. We watch security escort him out, and everybody in the audience starts chanting "Fight Demon." So they were chanting Night Demon earlier on in the show. They start chanting "Fight Demon, Fight Demon," and I was like, "Whoa, dude! Okay." It was kind of cool and kind of funny, but I was like, "All right, let's knock that off." So we finished our set. So before Raven went on, it's the kind of venue where, you know, everybody goes outside and smokes a cigarette and drinks outside, or just to get some air or whatever. And so I went outside like immediately after our set, and I was going to try and find the guy and just be like, hey, look, dude, like, what the hell was that all about? If you chill out, I'll get you back into the show. Like, I don't want this. It really left a bad taste in my mouth. And I wasn't angry, you know, I was just like, I was just sad. I was kind of just disappointed. You know, here's this guy coming to a show. I mean, it was a stupid thing for him to do, but like, here's a guy that's coming to a show, and it's like, you know, anybody that knows who Desolation Angels is, like, I want them to see Raven. You know what I mean?
But Jarvis did go outside after the show because the guy was kicked out. He went outside, and I guess the guy was tripping on either mushrooms or acid or something. He was having a bad trip, and he was just a fucking knucklehead.
I went outside, and there was all these people crowding him, and like people that knew him and people that knew the band, and they saw me walk up, and they're like, oh shit, like shit's about to go down. Jarvis is going to come out here and fight this guy because he's in Fight Demon, right? So I was like, no, it's all good. It's all good. I just want to talk to him. And I said, hey man, like, just mellow out, dude. I'll get you back into the show. And he's like, no, fuck you. Desolation Angels, fuck you. And he tried to charge at me again. And like, these guys were holding him back. And I was like, fuck you, forget it.
Jarvis was like, hey dude, I'll let you back in. We'll get you back into the show to see Raven, but are you going to act cool or not? And the guy was basically just like, fuck you. And so that was that.
So I just start walking back towards the door of the venue, and all the people outside to start chanting, nice demon. So they're like, nice demon, nice demon. It was just so fucking awesome and just such an unforgettable moment.
So the crowd called us Fight Demon because of that. And then after they watched Jarvis try to get the guy back in, they started calling us Nice Demon. So it went from Fight Demon to Nice Demon pretty quickly. So that's funny, It's definitely a moment that I'll always remember.
It turns out that I guess this guy was like, he had done a lot of acid that night. And I don't know. I mean, if I did acid like that, it would make me probably more skittish and more paranoid or more afraid to act out like that. But I guess it has the opposite effect on people, on certain people. And, you know, I don't know what he thought. You know, maybe he really did see the Desolation Angels thing for exactly what it was. I mean, if you're on acid, I don't know, your brain can see it. I mean, your mind could take you to a lot of places. Maybe he thought I was like the devil incarnate or something. Who knows? Maybe he was the good guy in his, I'm sure he was in his situation, right? I mean, the bad guy never thinks he's the bad guy, right? So anyway, it was really, really fucking interesting.
In the process of throwing the guy off the stage, I used to drum in my socks. So I didn't have any shoes on. So when I rushed the stage to grab the guy, I must have stubbed my toe on a monitor or something. Because, you know, when I took my sock off that night, it was all red. And then the next day it was just black and blue and all shot out. So I stubbed my toe somewhere in the mix. But, you know, you don't fuck with us. Like, that's one thing that I think those guys knew pretty much right off the bat that I was a little crazy at times. And, you know, if things need to get physical, you know, I'll be the first one to get in the shit.
It's a new one! We'll send you to hell! This is Satan! I'll steal the dog into hell! And the burning crosses on the wall! And the rotten angel comes unto you! Says follow me, your master goes! His name is Satan! He rules the underworld!
For a recap of the shows that I kind of brisked over in this thing, let's revisit Andrew Bonzal's Metal Assault blog. Day 30, October 28th, 2014. The Switcheroo. We arrived for the show in Sparks, Nevada at a venue called The Alley. And much like San Francisco, we discovered that Night Demon had been bumped down to third on the bill instead of main support to Raven, as the promoter preferred one of the locals in that slot. It turned out to be a mistake, as the band following Night Demon was no match for them in any way, shape, or form. And I say this with no disrespect intended. Unless a band of the stature of Manila Road gets added to the bill, as is the case for the November 16th Chicago show coming up, this needs to stop. The touring package should always get top billing, and if a local band thinks it's beneath them to open for Night Demon, they simply shouldn't play the show. With that said, Night Demon will give you a show that's more than worthy of being billed as Raven's main support, and you could take my word on that. Thank you, Andrew. He goes on, after the show, we debated on getting a hotel room in Sparks or driving overnight to our next destination in Ashland, Oregon, and went for the latter, which proved to be the right decision as we were able to check into a motel there in the early afternoon for a full day and got to sleep in motel beds after the show. Okay. Day 31, October 29th, 3 layers and no signal. On the way from Sparks to Ashland, Oregon, we slept in the van at a rest stop in Northern California for a few hours. Temperatures had dropped considerably, and despite burying myself in multiple layers of clothing, I wasn't able to get much sleep. On the plus side, I was awake to witness sunrise in the beautiful dense forest surrounding us. It was a sight to behold. The onward drive to Oregon, passing through Mount Shasta, was nothing short of breathtaking. It was a natural beauty at its finest. And this picture-perfect level of scenery accompanying us on all drives throughout our stint in the Northwest. There is a picture of this, by the way, on the blog, and you guys should check it out. We arrived to a rainy welcome in Ashland, and after checking into the motel right down the street from the venue, we found out that Wi-Fi wasn't functional. We weren't even getting network signal on our phones. Being cut off from all communication in this manner for a whole day was not fun and left us resorting to the idiot box to kill time watching bad Halloween-themed movies such as Children of the Corn. Man, I disagree with you, Andrew. Children of the Corn is is a classic film. 3 metal bands, 9 p.m., said the marquee at the venue. Okay, so I'll interject. I do remember this differently then. See, this is why I'm glad this blog is here. I said earlier that it was cool at least that our names were on a sandwich board or like on the marquee. Well, that's how I remembered it. But this is why it's so awesome to fucking have this, because now I remember the truth. That's what it did say. It said 3 metal bands, 9 p.m. In my mind, I remembered it as Raven, Night Demon tonight. No, 3 metal bands, 9 p.m. So he goes on. 3 metal bands, 9 p.m., said the marquee at the venue, as if it were a secret show and no one was supposed to know the names of said 3 bands. But it was another show in the books for Night Demon, after which we embarked on our next immediate mission, post-concert food. At 1 a.m., nothing around the venue was open, not even the Taco Bell, so gas station food was the only option. Gas stations in the state of Oregon have employees pumping gas into the vehicle for you, as opposed to the usual self-service style prevalent across most of America, which reminded me of India, where that system is followed nationwide. The rest of the night was spent watching yet more Halloween-centric movies, the surprisingly entertaining Ghoulies, followed by its lackluster sequel, which ultimately put us all to sleep. Yeah, I got to agree with that. And this was actually the inspiration for the Night Demon Ghoulies shirt, which I think those are sold out by now. There may be a couple on our web store, but yeah, good one. Okay, day 32, October 30th. Stay hard, stay wet. After a shortish drive from wet Ashland to an even wetter Portland, we reached the Tonic Lounge, and even with plenty of time on our hands, we had to rush to load gear and merch in, just so it wouldn't get drenched. I've developed great admiration for the Portland metal scene simply based on the endless amount of talent coming out of there and making its mark on a global level. Red Fang comes to mind straight away. And it was cool to finally experience it firsthand. All 3 local openers at the Tonic putting on more than a decent show. One obstacle for touring bands is the competition faced from other shows, especially in bigger towns. For example, the mighty I Hate God, a popular metal band anywhere in the U.S., and particularly amidst Portland's demographic, played a show at a place called Bossa Nova Ballroom the same night and definitely pulled some of the potential Raven Night Demon crowd. But for such factors that are out of Raven or Night Demon's control, all they can do is stay positive, rock out, and hope for the best. There was still a good crowd at the Tonic for both bands, many people in Halloween costumes and makeup, including the bartender. Aside from that, the merch area was pro level. We were fed quite well by the venue and the merch table. For a change, instead of being asked stupid questions or being treated like a drink stand, I was asked whether I would like to see some women's underwear. Affirmative. After the gig, we spent the night with the cool, hilarious dudes from the great young Portland-based band Spellcaster. They do the best Dave Mustaine imitations I've ever heard in my life. But there was a cat in the house, and after what happened in Oakland, I just couldn't handle being near the creature and left the house to sleep in the van. I'm pretty sure I'm uncomfortable around all cats now. Yeah, big shout out to the Spellcaster guys. All those guys, that band is defunct now, but that was one of our closest friends as far as other bands when we were coming up. Those guys have since split off to other really great bands, Unto Others being one of them, and also Silver Talon being another one of those bands. So check out both of those bands, please. They are good friends of ours, and they're definitely worth listening to. On to Andrew's blog, day 33, Halloween night, 10/31/2014, Halloween in Spokane. The Halloween night show was at the Hop in Spokane and turned out to be a good one. Plenty of interesting costumes all over the place, and the audience really digging Night Demon's set. To fit in with the theme of the evening, they played a new song called Screams in the Night off the upcoming full-length debut album Curse of the Damned, for which the U.S. release date has now been bumped up to January 27th. After a post-concert meal at Denny's, a tradition we ripped off from Raven, we slept in the van in the restaurant's parking lot and prepared for the border crossing to Vancouver. Brace yourselves. This is where it gets good.
Hey guys, Nesbitt here. If you would like to support Night Demon and this podcast, the best way to do it is to become a Night Demon subscriber. Not only will you be doing your part to support a true heavy metal band out there really living it, you'll also gain access to a ton of extras. Bonus audio content, a subscriber-only merch store with rare items from the band's archives. You can stream never-before-heard demos and unearth live concerts from the live vaults. Communicate with the other Night Demon diehards on an exclusive subscriber forum, and gain early access to all press releases, album pre-orders, new merchandise, and a ton more. And another thing that I think is pretty cool is Night Demon will be donating 10% of every subscription fee to the Metal Cares Foundation, which is a charitable fund the band started in 2014 to aid those in our metal community. So head over to nightdemon.net/subscriber and join us as we make heavy metal history together as one. And on a side note, I'll personally think you're a grade A badass.
Day 34, Fight Demon, sleepless near Seattle. We reached the Washington-British Columbia border crossing around 4 p.m. Raven were just ahead of us, and we saw them pull away as we got up to the inspection point. Everything seemed all good at first, but we had a problem. They denied me from entering their country for a mere 8-hour journalistic trip. Despite being a completely valid journalist in the USA and traveling with 3 legit Americans, apparently I'm supposed to fill out a load of paperwork and pay $100 for a separate Canadian visa every single time I need to enter, even for a few hours for a trip where I do not intend to make any money, instead of logically being granted entry into the neighboring country as an extension of my USA visa. Technically, I was already on Canadian soil in that inspection room. They totally had the authority to give me the green signal, but they didn't. Being legal in America for the foreseeable future, I don't consider my status as any different from an American crossing the border, and I don't see why my nationality should matter in this case. But I was turned around at the border after all, and I've already decided that I will not be going to the Toronto date of this tour. Night Demon rightly proceeded onward to play the show in Vancouver, and I assured them I'd take care of myself till they'd return to go to Seattle for the next gig. After being humiliated in Canada land, I had to get inspected at the U.S. Customs booth before walking back into the country. "Welcome home," said the extremely nice officer on duty, even giving me helpful tips on what to do in my situation. I took a cab to the nearest town of Linden, 5 miles south of the border, and endured the next 12 hours in waiting, homeless and sleepless. At first, I hung out at a Starbucks to get on the interweb and gain some much-needed sympathy from my dear American friends, but it closed at 9, and I was then left wandering around to see what else was open in this sleepy little town. Finding such places was crucial, as I needed to stay indoors and warm in this miserable, cold, rainy, windy, and dull 40-degree weather. From Starbucks, I went to Burger King, which closed at 10, and then to Jack in the Box till its 11 p.m. closing time. The only 24-hour place in town was a Safeway supermarket. Thankfully, they had a sitting area inside with free Wi-Fi, which is where I spent the night. Quite a challenge in itself, as I knew I couldn't fall asleep and risk being treated like an actual homeless person. So I sat up the whole time, and of course, the daylight savings had to take effect on this very night. I stared at the clock standing still at 2 a.m., and my wait was elongated a further hour. Plus, my computer wouldn't start. It was hell on earth. I got a message from Jarvis at 4:30 a.m. saying they were on their way to get me. "Get ready for some stories," he said. And indeed, they had stories from the Vancouver gig, which by the sounds of it was their most successful gig of the tour so far in terms of turnout, crowd response, and merch sales. I was delighted for the guys, but at the same time felt extremely upset that I wasn't there. You might think I'd be tired of seeing Night Demon Raven by now, but there was absolutely nothing I wanted to do other than be at that gig. But wait, it gets better, they said. According to them, a guy kept heckling Jarvis through their set, saying something about the backdrop to the point where he rushed the stage and tried to punch Jarvis. In response, Dustin jumped out and knocking that dude off the stage. Fight Demon pumped up the crowd even more with this incident, as the guy was escorted out of the venue and made it a memorable gig for those in attendance. Besides, they told me about some Indian congregation which held them up for a while on the way to the gig, which when they needed a legit Indian in the van, they didn't have one. Such was the irony of this day on both sides of the border. Man, that is so true. And just poor Andrew, what a trooper. It's funny because, talking about this stuff that was 10 years ago, we've all been through a lot since then. And it's kind of cool that we're all still doing it, and Andrew's still doing this and touring on a much higher level than this these days. And this is the kind of stuff that happens on the road to success. There's literal roadblocks. So very cool stuff to reflect on. Some very unfortunate, sad things, some funny things, some ironic things, but they are life things. So we continue on the road. I'll keep reading from his blog because he seems to remember a lot more than me about this. Day 35, November 2nd, 2014, titled Back in Business. After a hearty early morning Denny's meal and a few hours of shut-eye in the van, we drove to Seattle, showered for the first time in 4 days, and went to Studio 7 for the gig. I've been paying close attention to the no smoking signs in the state of Washington, where recreational marijuana usage is legal. And it's hysterical how strict the signs are in comparison to states where it's actually legal. As you can see below, he's got a sign here. No marijuana allowed on the premises. It says it like 10 times on this sign. It makes perfect sense, though, as they need to assert greater authority to control people. And speaking purely for myself, I'd have to say it's not even half as fun as smoking pot in a legal state. The gig itself was another killer one for Night Demon. While Raven had some issues to deal with, just got to the venue. Border crossing into the U.S. took a while for them, after which their vehicle broke down and they needed to rent a minivan to haul themselves to Seattle. They ended up arriving at the venue after all and used Night Demon's amps to play their set. They actually sounded really killer, and for the sake of the audience that paid money to see Raven, I was glad they made it, and all of this lent a sense of uniqueness to the gig.
There was another gig, I believe it was in Washington, Seattle. They were coming from they were coming from Vancouver to Seattle. Their RV broke down. They ended up showing up to that gig in a minivan, and the tensions were high. They were burnt out at that point, just from fighting with their RV the whole time. And, I felt bad for them, but, they hustled. They hustled that tour for sure, for their age and for, who they are and everything. Like they went for it. And, it was kind of like them revitalizing their career and band. So it was pretty cool to see their perseverance. And yeah, so that was something. That was something.
Ventura, California. It's great to be back up north here. We fucking appreciate it so much.
Well, that's it for this week. That version of the Howling Man that you just heard, that was the very first performance of the Howling Man on this tour and in North America. So a brand new song at that point. If you're a subscriber, that entire show is available in the subscriber section on nightdemon.net, along with countless other shows from back in the day right up to the current tours. There's more information on how to become a Night Demon subscriber on nightdemon.net. And until next week, this is Nesbitt signing off.
Thanks for listening to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. Head over to nightdemon.net, click on the subscriber tab, and sign up to access exclusive weekly bonus content. If you would like to donate to support the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast, you can do so through PayPal at paypal.me/nightdemonmetal. Additionally, if you have not already done so, please subscribe, like, rate, and review the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts.
All hail, Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast listeners. This is Dusty Squires chiming in to tell you about my brand new signature sticks from the London Drumstick Company. I've dreamt of having my very own drumsticks ever since I was a wee lad, and LDC made that a possibility for me. Founded in 2016 in London, England, the birthplace of heavy metal, the London Drumstick Company has trailblazed a path through the music industry and taken the drummer world by storm. When I met them for the first time, they knew their product was going to withstand the beatings of a Night Demon show. They took the time to work with me on getting everything just right. The balance and weight of my sticks are the same no matter what, and the durability is bar none the best I've ever had. I know my sticks will last through the set night after night. I'm truly honored to work with a company that caters to their players the way LDC does. Their innovation and attention to detail is what separates them from the rest of the stick makers out there. Their custom stick sleeves are unbelievable and really make the entire presentation complete. Wait until you see the design they came up with for me. It blew my mind and was a surprise to say the least. They have all kinds of amazing swag, including hoodies, t-shirts, drummer shorts, drum keys, stick bags, towels, face masks, practice pads, and much, much more. Even if you're not a drummer, you can be a part of Demon history and order my brand new signature sticks direct from their website. How cool is that? And to top it off, the London Drumstick Company are giving an exclusive offer to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast listeners. Go to londondrumsticks.co.uk and receive a 15% store-wide discount using promo code DEMONSTICKS. All capital letters, no spaces, Demon Sticks. DEMONSTICKS. I can't thank everyone there enough for the opportunity to be a part of their family and for them trusting me with their amazing products. See you metal maniacs on the road very soon. And yes, the wood chips will be flying.
Greetings, boils and ghouls. This is your comrade, the Crypt Keeper here, reporting dead from the sanctuary of the strange. Tonight's macabre myth is a fright-filled feature one overflowing with monsters, madness, and magic.
Visit our website at monstersmadnessandmagic.com to stay up to date on all the dark dealings within the sanctuary of the strange. Enjoy the show.
Hey Metalheads, I'm Mark and I host the Metal Forge. Let me tell you about the show. The Metal Forge features the best underground metal from all over the world. We spend every week with a different artist with interviews, in-depth conversations, and most of all, the music. We also feature audience interactivity where you can submit your questions to the upcoming guests. New episodes are out every Friday at noon Eastern Time at MetalForgeRadio.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking Podcast, a non-genre based, all-ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
Okay, Metalheads, you've been complaining that there has not been a channel that plays all of the heavy metal videos from past, present, and future for years and years at this point. Well, that time is over. Heavy Metal Television is back. HeavyMetalTelevision.net is the website. Go there. You can see videos playing 24/7, 365, all the time, all the best from the old school, the new school, and everything in between. Check it out, HeavyMetalTelevision.net. It is where the metal is.